Hey, Josh, down front. Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Wanted to ask just about the DeAndre being traded. You got to obviously play with him last year. What did you think about the trade and getting to know him a little bit? Just your thoughts on it.
Obviously, me and DeAndre, we clicked both on and off the court. After the trade, I talked to him. He was happy about it. At the end of the day, that's all you can, hope for. I feel like he was good for this community. What he did for us on the court, it was tremendous. And I feel like, I wish him the best of luck over there. And I have no doubts he's going to do his thing.
Curious with you, and we know how competitive you are and things you bring to the table. It's a fifth starter spot out there to be had. I'm just curious, you started with Durant and the guys last year. How are you feeling about getting in and mixing it up and fighting for that opportunity to be the fifth
My
starter?
approach is just, controlling what I can control, which is how hard I play, how I approach the game and what I can do on the court. That's ultimately, coach's decision. I can't do anything about that. But, the training camp starts tomorrow. Like I said, I got to just go out there and just do what I do and let the chips fall where they may.
Hey, Josh, Kellen Olson, Arizona Sports. Nice to see you again. How did you evaluate the season that you had last year as a whole, just with the way your role started and the way that it ended in the year?
I enjoyed my season last year. It's probably one of my favorite seasons. From getting hurt in training camp and not really being able to do training camp to, kind of trying to find my way around the season, playing, not playing, playing, not playing, to kind of find a little sweet spot where I, had, some success and kind of staying with that success and being able to, win games at a high level that we did last year. It was great for me and it was fun. So kind of trying to get that and just carry over to this season and kind of pick up where I left off.
Hey, Josh, good to see you.
What's going on?
How exciting is it for you? I know obviously you take the defensive end very seriously, to have a coach like Frank Vogel coming in here and be able to work with a guy who's put out some elite defenses during his time in the league.
Yeah, it just takes me back when I started and when I got in the league. I had Tibbs, and he's all for defense. 75% of the practice was defense. So, I've been in that environment before with a defense first coach. So, it would be kind of fun to familiar myself with that kind of environment again. And we've talked, and I'll tell you, nothing pumps Coach Vogel up like some defense. So hopefully we can find some common ground there.
Josh, Doug Haller with The Athletic. Had someone told you when you walked off the court in the playoffs last year that the roster would have had this much turnover, this many changes, would that have surprised you?
Yeah, people be looking at me like I'm a vet of the team now, and I'm like, I'm still figuring out my street names. But yeah, it happens. It happens. But I had some similar in my first couple of years in the league as well. But at the end of the day, everybody, the 450 players is in this league. I think it's going to be a little bit more now because we have, 450. The 450 players in this league, they're all trying to win a championship. So it doesn't matter who's on what team. The goal for everybody is pretty much the same. So.
Hey, Josh, Mason Wood, Back Sports page right over here. I wanted to ask, over the offseason, you got to help organize a carnival for one of your local high schools that you went to, Shiloh High School. What was that experience like for you, and what did you learn from that you can use not only on the basketball court but in life as well?
Yeah, it was dope. I always wanted to give back to the community, but, obviously, everybody would do the basketball camp, but basketball camp is only for kids who want to play basketball. What if you're a kid and want to play soccer, or you're a kid who just wants to have fun and not necessarily want to do a basketball camp? I wanted to do something where I could still, involve the whole community, where everybody could come, not just kids, maybe guys in their teens, or parents can bring their kids, and some they can do, with their kids. So that's when I kind of got the idea of why not I just do a carnival. When I was growing up in the Snellville community, and just for clarification, I didn't only do it for my high school, I did it for the whole community. But I had it at my high school. But when I was growing up, they used to have something like similar to it, but they stopped doing it. So I was like, why don't I just kind of organize something to bring it back? And my birthday was around Labor Day weekend, so I'm like, why don't I just do it at Labor Day weekend, and obviously do it on a Sunday, because nobody has to go to work. Most people don't have to go to work on that Monday. And it was a great turnout. Go, I don't know if y'all seen it, Go was there. He pulled up, so it was fun.
Hey, Josh, this is Dave King with SB Nation, Brightside. So take us through free agency a little bit. Did you decide, you knew all along you were coming back, or were you waiting for a phone call from the Suns? And you had already seen a bunch of the changes by the time you agreed to a contract, I think, but take us through that if you could.
Yeah, me going through free agency, after the season, I kind of, did some traveling and just kind of cleared my mind from basketball. But then as free agency was approaching, me and my agents, we talked a lot, and we talked about, where I wanted my, career to go, and what teams could help shape, my career in terms of where I wanted it to go. And Phoenix was they were always on the list. And after we talked, me and James and even Frank at the time, we've had conversations. And it's funny because I actually met Frank. I told him this when I was talking to him before. I told him All-Star Weekend. This was in Chicago, so I think this was my second year in the league, or first year in the league. I can't remember. But I was in the elevator going down, and Coach was in the elevator with me. Didn't really know him. I'm just standing there, and he just goes to me and says, "I love your game. You're tough." And just walks off the elevator. So I was like, I just said thank you, and I didn't think nothing of it. But to have that full circle moment, and and he was like, I always wanted to, coach you even 4 or 5 years ago, and to be here now, under him, I think that's that's a cool, kind of special little moment right there. But when I picked the Phoenix Suns, I picked it because it wasn't for nothing, immediate, but kind of long term in terms of how I feel like this team can help me grow and how I can help this team grow as well.
Josh over here, Trevor Booth with Clutch Points. You mentioned last year you started the last 25 games and then the rotation changed in the playoffs. You were out as a starting lineup to start. Why do you think that was, and how challenging was it to find a rhythm in the playoffs when that changed?
Why it was, I think Coach thought it was better for like the matchup purposes. We was playing a tough Clippers team, but it really didn't matter. At the end of the day, the goal, especially when you get to the playoffs, is how do we, as a team, as a collective, find a way to win this series, move on to the next series, and ultimately win a championship. Coming off the bench, it wasn't much of an adjustment, too much, because I did it the other 60 or 50-something, 57 or 52 or whatever games. So it was like, it was cool. Starting whatever the team needed me to do is what I was willing to do to help win, and we ended up winning that series anyway, so we were cool.
Damian Adams here, Burn City Sports. As one of the best perimeter players perimeter defenders, I should say, in the league, what advice would you give to young players out there who want to be great defenders, and also who are some of the other defenders in the league that you look at as great perimeter defenders?
I actually see myself as a pretty good defender, just in general, not necessarily just the perimeter. But if I wanted to give kids advice on defense, it's like work on it. You know what I'm saying? Work on it. Like you see kids or even workouts in general, you see the videos, the highlights. It's all shooting threes, crossovers, this, that. And I'm not saying put sliding your feet in your highlights, but but like work on it. When I was in high school, my coach used to put 2 5-pound dumbbells in the arms, and we used to have to slide across the court. And we used to do defense first in college, and high school, and my middle school defense first. My AU teams, for the most part, were defense first. So I've always kind of had that defense first mentality. And then when I got to the league, I would play for a defense first coach. So it was always something that I've worked on, not necessarily because I wanted to, but because that was the kind of the environment that I was always put in. And it helps with your instincts. It helps with because like a lot of stuff, even with basketball, when you cross over, you're not thinking about crossing over. It's just how the defense plays. Your instincts tell you to do the moves that you work on. Defense works the same way. When you're guarding somebody, you don't think slide this way, slide that way. It's just your instincts just taking over. But if you don't work on something, you never gain those instincts, and it becomes naturally harder to do those kind of things. But the guys that I think that are good defenders in the league, specifically on the perimeter, I would say Drew Holiday. I like Miles McBride. with the New York Knicks. I think Saban is a hell of a defender as well on this team, and so is Jordan Goodwin. And those are my favorite, defenders in the league.
Two more.
Hey Josh, Shane Young, Forward Sports. I'm just curious, what do you see as the next evolution of your offensive game, given that you're only 25?
I think my next evolution for my offensive game is being able to continue to make the right play every time. And, I know as easy as that sounds, I feel like that's why, Jokic is such a great player. He necessarily doesn't do anything that's going to wow you. I mean, he does have some wild passes, but he makes the right play every time. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where I want to get to, especially on a team like this where, we have guys like Katie, Book, and Brad who are going to shoot a lot of shots. So when I'm driving, I need to know how the defense is playing it and know who's open and be able to get the ball on time, on target to them every single time. So I feel like for my next evolution is to do that and to be able to hit the open shots more consistently.
Josh, Dana Scott from Arizona Republic. Just wondering about this team is still has yet to be whittled down to 15, but there's.
Say it again?
This team has yet to be whittled down to 15, obviously, because of the preseason, but there's a lot of connections from Africa. There's 5 players on this team, I believe 4, or at least 4, 3 of you from Nigeria. Have you noticed that connection, and what do you think about that at the moment?
Who's the 4th one that's not from Nigeria?
Well, you have Udoka Azubuike from Nigeria, Chimezi,
me.
yourself, and Bol Bol, who's Sudanese.
There's so many new players. I'm like, who's not from Nigeria?
Yeah, so
Okay.
It was 3 of you from Nigeria.
Yeah, and then Bo is not, but he's also from. Yeah, I got you. So the question, sorry, what's the question again?
Just basically, like, have you noticed that connection and basically the heritage and familiarity and what it says about the diversity of the Suns, this early season team, and Nigerian connection?
Yeah, the connection is great. I heard Meji talked about it a little bit, but being able to play with him in 2019, really meeting him because he was in my draft class, so we cross paths in different workouts and stuff, but be able to actually meet him and know him as a person, is really dope. And Udoka, this is my first time actually being on a team with him, but I've played against him numerous times. But it's actually crazy because when you talk to somebody that's from where you're from, it doesn't matter at what point in your life you meet them. As soon as you meet them, it's like y'all have known each other forever. I mean, I've spent probably more time with Udoka in these last 2-3 weeks than anybody else on the team. And you probably wouldn't even be able to picture that. But yeah, me and Udoka, I spent some time with him yesterday and the day before that. We talk to each other a lot. And Bo, being able to connect with him, just knowing, he's from the motherland as well has been dope. I actually talked to him about where he was from. He told me, forgive me, but I forgot what he said. But it doesn't really take away from the fact that I consider him just my brother, just because we repping the motherland. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate it.
Next up is going to be